This one sound is the basis for almost everything that I've done in this song. Check it out. So it's already got this cool kind of granular thing going on, but what I've done is I've taken this sampler, and in the sampler I've set it to textures in Bitwig, which is a granular playback, froze it, and then randomized the playhead position. And right now I'm only taking this little chunk right here. There's a few different sounds that are using this sample thing. One of the main ones that you're gonna hear is this one. So this first one, there's a few different layers, and what's happening here is I've taken this vital patch. It's a random amp growl, which is actually just a preset that you can get just from downloading Vital, but you're not getting any of the growl, because what I've done is I've taken that growl and put it into a vocoder as the modulator, and the carrier is this kind of big long chain of things. So I'll walk you through the chain. First of all, in Bitwig, in order to vocode something like this with the method that I'm using, I need a note receiver, and so this is just a plugin that's basically reading this track right here. I called it MIDI sequencer. It doesn't need to be called MIDI sequencer, that's just the name that made sense to my brain. And so that's playing these notes. Blum, blum. And then that MIDI sequencer is going into my sampler, and the sampler is playing that granulated sample from earlier. This tool is disabled, which tells me it's probably not doing anything. Then I've just added some OTT just to compress the hell out of it, because I think, if I remember correctly, this was coming out super quiet, and the OTT was just to help bring that up. A little bit of reverb, a little bit of delay, EQ out some of the lows, because we didn't really need any of that for this sound, and we get that. The next layer is very similar to the last one. I believe the literal only difference in the entire chain is this filter that I just bandpassed and automated it so that whenever the MIDI plays, it just does a quick sweep down the frequency spectrum from high to low. Then there's this one. This one is actually just the vital growl from earlier. And I've made the volume envelope also attached to this growl macro. Gives it that kind of wow wow. But other than that, it's literally just the preset. It sounded good. And then I've got a sub layer. And that is this sound. Then for this section, I call this crystal chimes, but really all it was is I took some bounces of the granulated sample and just put it in eighth note chunks at different octaves. So on its own, it sounds like this. OTT for compression, a little bit of reverb, some delay. The Bitwig delay has a preset called space, which when you turn it all the way up, turns it into this really like ambient reverb that I love. It doesn't really do the delay thing anymore. It's really just this washy space. And then just an auto pan so that it kind of goes back and forth between your left and right ears. And that's that. And then a couple other textures, you're just getting that reese going. Wow. And then we get this little drum fill, and it goes into stacks. Now for the synth stacks, I've got, I believe these are just like saw stacks. Do an eighth note envelope. and just a little bit of extra high end, some white noise, a little bit of FM from a square wave to give it a little bit of extra crunchy sound, distortion, compression, and that's that saw stack. I call this the poop bass. This is kind of poopy. And then there's this bass. I called it sub. It's got a lot of other stuff going on besides sub, but it's mostly the sub. Then I've got our lead, which is a vital patch that I just bounced out, but the main sound is a square with 16 voices, saw with 10. Basic shape sine wave with some sync to bring it up, and then FM that to both our square and saw sounds. And then I just did 2 different octaves of it with, and the reason I bounced it is so that I could pitch bend it. Kind of sounds like crap on its own, but you put it in context of everything. And then we get into our color stacks, which, spoiler alert, is the same exact vocoder preset. I mean, not a preset, but vocoder chain as it was earlier, except with these super saw stacks being vocoded. And then the reason there's so many different tracks of it is because for each of these individual ones, I have it carried by the sampler sampling a different chunk of the sample so that I can have like different chords of that granulated thing. And then that sounds like this. And then later on you get this guy. And then all together you get this.